I'm Owen Bigland. This is the Inside Edge video blog. Okay, these type of blogs are never fun really to do, to be honest. But I have to continuously throw out these stories here that I see in the media because there's lessons to be learned here about how life is really working these days if you're living in an expensive city like Vancouver, or in this case Kelowna, with a hot real estate market and you've been a lifetime renter. So this was just printed June 1st in CBC, but I saw it picked up on my Twitter feed here. Some other people had picked it up. It's a story entitled "Kelowna Real Estate Boom Forces Some Renters Out of Long-Time Homes." And it's a story of a young couple. Well, she's 38, he's around the same age, with two young kids around 4 and 6 years old. So the story is that they've been in this detached home in Kelowna paying $18.50 a month for something like 7 years. And now the owner has up and sold the house, put a sign on it, sold it within a week, multiple offers, sold it over asking price. And of course, the new owner is going to move into the house. And now they've been hit with a 2 clear months notice to vacate. And, you know, the title was, with this young woman, my whole world kind of fell apart. For the reason that, they're paying $18.50 a month, apparently to rent something comparable in that market right now, she's looking at somewhere between $2,800 to over $3,000 a month, which isn't affordable to them. So now, of course, what they've gotten themselves into here is, what we call a rental trap. Just like every place in BC now since COVID, although, this was inevitable anyways, as I've often said, real estate goes in cycles. And we're in a hot cycle right now. But Kelowna real estate, just like lower mainland real estate, detached homes, condos, townhomes, is booming. It's a white hot seller's market. Prices are up, double digits. Rental inventory is shrunk. Rental rates are skyrocketing. So here they're faced with a dilemma. They can't afford what we call the rental trap. They can't afford double the rent that they're currently paying. And of course, they can't buy either because the price of these homes is up dramatically in the last 18 months. Tough situation. And it's a situation that's been playing out in the lower mainland here as well. Vancouver, Richmond, Burnaby. I've seen plenty of these stories. Well, let me just answer a couple of things here. First things, I feel for this young couple here. I do. 38 years old, 2 young kids. But I've talked about this many times before about taking ownership. And in the comment section, I was kind of surprised. I'm seeing this more and more. Of course, there's some people that are kind of pointing the finger at the greedy landlord. There's always those people. They're straight up socialist, communist. I don't know what their issues are, but the landlord, they're pointing the finger at a landlord that has been obviously a very good landlord to these people. And this isn't the owners pointing the finger at that. This is just the commenters. But, the landlord is in a situation that really everyone would probably do. And the problem is a couple of things here who I blame this on. The landlord apparently has owned this house for a long time. The tenants have been in there for about 7 years, and he has not been able to raise the rent, or he hasn't for over 2 years now, because of course the NDP has put a rent freeze on for over a year that doesn't expire until later this summer. But even before the rent freeze, which I think in my opinion has gone on far too long, I could understand a rent freeze going on for 3 months or 6 months during the height of COVID last year. But you see, this started prior to that with the NDP. For the last 30 years, we've gotten by with CPI, which is the inflation rate, plus 2%. But 2 years ago, the NDP thought that was outrageously too much and rolled that back just to CPI. That was the first problem that started. And then, of course, now we've had a big increase in insurance, not just on condos, but to insure detached homes has gone up. Property taxes have been going up double digit. The expenses to hold these homes, whether it's a detached home or a condo, are up double digits, but they can't raise the rent. Or prior to this or after COVID, they're only going to be able to raise it a fraction of what their costs are. So I've talked about this last month as well, how some investors have said enough is enough. This is something that the NDP just does not, in a lot of governments, City of Vancouver, just don't seem to understand. They don't understand the elasticity of taxes. And for every tax, there's a reaction to a tax. You can't just tax people indefinitely higher and higher and there's no recourse. The recourse is what's happening now. Prices have been going up. Landlords can't raise the rent to keep up with the high cost of maintaining the property. They're sitting at record-setting prices to sell. Many of these long-term landlords are saying enough is enough. I can sell my house now for $1 million. It was worth $750 3 years ago. I'm going to take my chips and take my marbles and leave the playground, go to greener pastures. And that's exactly what's happened here. And, you know, some of the commenters are blaming the landlord. The landlord is, what were you expecting? I mean, this is what you sign up for, as I've often said, when you become a lifetime renter. And a lot of the comments, which I'm seeing more and more of, were kind of saying that. I feel for this young couple and this family. However, as many people pointed out, 38 years old and you've been renting for, decades. What have you been doing? You should have realized that your days are numbered as a long-time renter. How many blogs have I done on renting versus owning and the intangibles of owning versus renting? When you're renting, you have no rights to that property. You sign a 1-year lease and then it goes month to month. After that, you are on borrowed time on a month-to-month lease. And you add to that the current political and taxation situation we have in the province, as well as in the city of Vancouver, and you get what you have here. You get landlords exiting the business, exiting the rental market, selling the home for record-setting prices. There's another home that is no longer in the rental pool because the buyers on these homes, most anyways, are going to be principal residence buyers, not investors. So it shrinks the investor available rental pool and up go the rents. You get into the rental trap. You're seeing that in Vancouver, and you're going to see more of this going into 2022, what I've called that coiled spring effect on rents. Because I've often said here, if you want to rent a decent condo, townhouse, or detached, if you want to rent a detached home, duplex, or townhome, you're going to be dealing with an individual, usually a mom and pop investor, landlord. Individual mom and pop landlords, in my opinion, are offering up, probably control 80-85% of the quality rental stock in the city of Vancouver. There are very few purposely built rentals, at least modern purposely built rentals. There's been 5 or 6 buildings in the last 5 years. Prior to that, nothing came online for decades here. It's either that or extremely old wood frame in the West End, apartment buildings. But if you want to rent a nice 1-bedroom condo in Yaletown, you're dealing with an individual landlord. You want to rent a townhouse or a 3-bed, you're dealing with an individual landlord. A house, detached house or duplex, these are individual landlords. Eventually, when you get into taxes, a price like we've got now, costs going up, again, they say enough is enough. So they'll tell you, as often said here, they speak with forked tongue, governments. They tell you that they're going to do something to help you with affordability. We're going to put a rental freeze on, we're going to put all these restrictions on, we're going to bump up taxes. It makes the problem worse. And you're seeing this firsthand in this situation here. This is the proof right here. You're going to see more of this going into this year and into 2022. Borders are going to open back up again. Students are going to come back in on visas. Business contract workers are going to come back in. We're already at a very low vacancy rate anyways. We've taken units out of the market over the last year because the prices have been sky high, and a lot of long-time investors have said, hey, I'm going to cash in. This guy in Kelowna, I tell you, the government just doesn't get it. He's going to take this $1 million. He's not going to buy another property and rent it out in Kelowna. If he's smart, he's going to take some of that money, convert it into US dollars, because our Canadian dollar is strong right now, and buy a whole bunch of high-quality US equities with it. That's what I would tell him to do. He's going to take most of that money out of the country, out of the province. For every tax, there's a reaction to it. Governments would let you think that we can just tax indefinitely and stretch that elastic out, and people will bend over and pay it. They will for a while, but eventually you get a situation like this, and I do not blame this landlord one bit. That's what you sign up for when you become a lifetime renter. This is tough love for these people. I know you don't want to, some people are going to think, what a heartless realtor, and he's blaming it on the tenant. I'm not. What I'm saying is, is that they've been renting for decades, 38 years old. You have to start taking ownership for this. You have to start putting some planning in effect before you start a family and go down that rental ladder. Because it's a road to nowhere long term. Nothing wrong with renting short term, as I've said many times. But to become a lifetime renter, you're on borrowed time. You're on borrowed time here. And that's why, to close it off here, people were questioning me 5 years ago when I was panning that hideously stupid book called The Wealthy Renter. That guy that went on BNN. I called him an opportunist, and he was. That's all this guy was, an opportunist, to try and sell a few books, make a few dollars by trying to tell you that renting long term in a city like Vancouver and Toronto is far superior. That's what you want to do. Don't own, don't buy. God, no. Don't take advantage of that principal residence exemption. Don't take advantage of that 1.6% interest rates. Pay me, as a landlord, $2,300 a month for the one bedroom. It was just terribly bad advice, not only from a financial standpoint, but I've often said here too, there are all kinds of intangibles with home ownership. Pride of ownership, the stability you have, where you're not up at night waiting for that phone call from your landlord to say, hey, guys, you've been great tenants for me, but I've decided I'm going to move back into the property, or my daughter's going to move back in, or I'm going to list and sell it next month, and you're going to be out in 2 months. That's no way to live. That's what signing up as a long-term renter will do for you. You have to realize that. Life, I know some people want to be living in a gravy train where rent stay the same forever, prices never go up, and we're all entitled to a home. Well, if you want that, then you need to be a homeowner. You need to save the down payment and get your foot in the door. Then you don't have to worry about any of that stuff. You're riding the market up. You're creating you've got the best and only true tax shelter we have in this country. If you're not taking advantage of it, you're crazy. Take advantage of the leverage, putting 20% down, borrowing the other 80%. Read some books on what leverage can do for you at those type of interest rates. Plus, not to mention, it's not only going to be the best investment you've ever had, but it's a tangible product. You need a roof over your head. The alternative is to be at the whim of your landlord, and I'm a landlord. Again, nothing wrong with, while you're getting going, rent for a year or two, while you're saving for your down payment. I put a tweet out, just close it off here, go onto my Twitter feed here. It was a quote, and I'm sorry, I don't even know it's not my quote. But it said, people are where they are because that's exactly where they want to be, regardless of whether they want to admit to it or not. And this is true in life. You're exactly where you want to be in life, even if you want to admit it or not. If you're in this renter treadmill and you're pushing 40 and you've been a long-time renter for 15 or 20 years, your days are numbered here in a city like Vancouver. Rents are going to go up. We're going to get a spike in rents here next year. Inventory for good quality rentals, which are usually mom and pop owned anyways, are going down, and the prices are going up. We've got a rental trap going on for you here. You've got to recognize that so that you don't get like this, where her whole world just fell apart. I feel for these people, but as many of the commenters pointed out, what have you been doing? You're on borrowed time here. The writing has been on the wall for a long time. Kelowna's growing, prices are going up, COVID has magnified it, and you got a rental freeze on now that the NDP told you was going to help you, but it's making it worse because landlords now are thinking, geez, I can't raise the rent. My property's worth sky-high price. What am I doing here? I'm going to cash in my marbles and leave the playground, and probably leave the playground of BC completely for now. That's what's going to happen here. It's funny though, the guy that wrote The Wealthy Renter, I bet he never had a chapter on that, right? Never had a chapter on a month-to-month lease, getting a phone call from your landlord, getting into a rental trap eventually where rents skyrocket, prices skyrocket, You get notice, now you're in trouble. You're going to have to downsize from a house to a 2-bedroom condo with kids. This is what you're signing up for with this, and why I pounded home for so long here that you've got to become an owner if you're going to commit to a city like Vancouver or even Kelowna. It's in your best interest to become an owner. And the hard part is just saving for the down payment. Once you're in, it's a gravy train after that. It is. Your outlay to support your mortgage isn't going to be, and all your property taxes and maintenance aren't going to be much more than what you're paying for rent. I'm Owen Bigland. As always, thanks for watching. I'll see you next week.